Welcome back to the Word on Fire Show. I'm Dr. Matthew Petrusek, Senior Director of the Word on Fire Institute and the host of the Word on Fire Show. Thank you, as always, for joining us. So in the last Word on Fire show, Bishop Barron and I looked at some of the reasons that may be contributing to the resurgence, or for the first time, interest in Catholicism we're seeing out in the culture. Today, we'll be looking at 5 suggestions on how we can preserve that momentum and hopefully increase it. Here to join us, as always, is Bishop Robert Barron. Welcome back to the studio, Bishop.
Thanks, Matt. Always good to be with you.
So today we're actually continuing a conversation that we started in our last Word on Fire show. We're going to be looking at some suggestions on how to preserve and augment the momentum that we're seeing of this great interest in Catholicism and conversion to Catholicism as well. But before we get to that, you recently returned from an extended trip to Europe. What were you up to over there?
A lot of things. I was in Europe for 17 days, in France, Germany, and Rome. I was in Rome for the Jubilee of Young People. I was in Germany to get the Josef Pieper Prize. And then the bulk of the trip was in France. And that was to film for this documentary we're doing on Gothic churches, the purpose of which is to explain the spiritual heart of these churches and why they matter so much to us. Prompted by the Notre Dame fire from 2019. So we went to Amiens, went to Reims, went to Saint-Denis, to Notre Dame in Paris, and finally to Chartres. So 5 of the really great Gothic churches in what they call the Île-de-France, which is that area around Paris. And it was a thrill for me. I'd been to all those places before, but really to, sink our teeth into them and to photograph them. And I think you'll find when this comes out, I hope in the coming spring, the photography will be beautiful. And I did stand-ups there. And so I hope it has a real evangelical power.
And the title of the film is It's Heaven in Glass and Stone, or Stone
Heaven
and
in Stone and Glass, which is a book I wrote a long time ago. And we thought we're going to do like a kind of expanded version of the book in connection with the film. Because the idea there is that, the church building is not just a place where the community gathers.
Right.
It's meant to be a sign of heaven. It's a symbol of heaven. So the stone, the glass, the decoration, the sculpture, the windows, all of it is meant to be the New Jerusalem, with the jeweled walls. And they were very aware of the book of Revelation when they built these places, that it was to look like the heavenly Jerusalem.
Fantastic. Well, we're all looking forward to that. Let's now turn to today's topic, how to build on the momentum that we're seeing in the culture of this interest in Catholicism.
Okay.
So we have a couple of suggestions here. The first is to keep Catholicism smart, which is a positive way of saying don't ever return to the dumbing down of the faith in some attempt to be culturally relevant. So why is this so important, Bishop? And how can we continue to do it?
Well, first of all, because we're smart people. We're rational animals. We ask questions and we seek answers to them. We don't think a permanently open mind is a good thing. We want answers. And we want deep answers. We want satisfying answers. And, I've been railing against this for years. I received a very dumbed-down Catholicism that didn't provide good answers, that was kind of anti-intellectual in its approach. And people fell away in droves when they grew up a little bit and they had questions that couldn't be answered. We have some of the smartest people in Western civilization inside our Catholic tradition who have very profound answers to these questions. Mm-hmm. I said this often at the synods, because there was a tendency, I thought, to move toward we're just accompanying people. We're just, we're with them. And yeah, I get it, but we're not just wandering around with them. We're trying to move them somewhere. We have something. Oh no, we're here to listen. Yes, but Jesus listened on the road to Emmaus, and then he taught.
Right.
Then he taught, and he called them fools, and he told them this is the way you should be thinking about it. So the church should do both those things: listen, but also clearly teach, and then teach deeply. Now for years I've been publishing books. And since I started doing it, people will say to me, Father or Bishop, no, that's too complicated or it's too much for people. Give me a break. We have somewhat shortened versions, like my book on the Eucharist, my book on the Nicene Creed. They've sold millions of copies. And I say it to signal the fact that we've so underestimated what our people are capable of, what they're interested in. So no, the dumbed down Catholicism has been a disaster, and we should fight against it at every opportunity.
As you pointed out many times, a lot has to do just the change of perception that we're willing to see. Math is hard. We're willing to see engineering is hard.
Of
but
course,
religion we need to see as
let's
somehow
stay at
simplistic.
the 10th grade level.
Yeah, right.
Why? But we accepted that logic. It's extraordinary to me. For a long time, we accepted that logic. I can't handle it. And it happens to be the most important thing you could think about, more important than math and science and engineering, is religion. It's the most important thing to think about. So let's do it in a serious way.
Right.
That I think, look, I'll say this, and I'm not trying to crow, but I think one reason Word on Fire has been successful is exactly that, is that we've been a smart outlet, and people respond to that. Oh, Bishop, don't do that. Oh, no, don't. That's too high level for people. No, it's not. And I can say that now on 25 years of experience. And I won't rehearse all the numbers, but how many, hundreds of millions of views and so on later, I can say nonsense.
Right.
Nonsense. The contrary, in fact, that young, I don't like the use of young people, because I think everyone's on the internet now. It's not just young people. Everyone's on the internet. People responding to it and listening to it. So, right, the dumbing down is a major problem.
We can all handle the truth.
Yep.
A second suggestion is to make Catholicism beautiful again.
Right.
To put it somewhat diplomatically, the many Catholic churches built in the last, say, 50 years have not been the most edifying and elevating spiritually and even morally. So what can we do to reclaim our great aesthetic heritage?
Well, thank God it's happening, isn't it? There are people from within the Catholic architectural world, let's say, who have reclaimed it and have represented it in a way that people find appealing. And now churches are being built in this more classical style. And again, I don't mean this as some sort of, let's go backism. It's the question, as you put it rightly, of the beautiful. Bauhaus modernism became the standard, default position. God knoweth why, but it was like when I was coming of age, the sort of Bauhaus, simple, no decoration, brick walls, muted symbolism. Think of so many of the churches, I won't name them, but built during that time. I don't think that bears the Christian tradition very well. It doesn't provide a context for the liturgy very well at all. There are a lot of different styles. Look, I love Gothic, I love Romanesque, I love the classical basilicas, I love all kinds of different forms. There doesn't have to be one, but that you are attentive to beauty and to the liturgical purpose of a church. And when words can't reach your mind, the beauty can reach your heart in a way. If the building, and this is from a church document from the 1970s, is simply the skin of the worshiping assembly, making it like a tent. So they put the tent up, we gather the community, and then we pitch the tent, and off we go. That's not it. The church is the Domus Dei. We say it's the house of God.
Right.
And that's because of the tabernacle, right? But also it's the house of the liturgy. And therefore it's decorated in this way that is deeply evocative and appeals to the heart when the words won't do it. Think of Newman's illative sense as you can be, basically convinced by arguments, but it might be Chartres Cathedral that pushes you over the edge, right? Or someone wanders into a church and I don't know, what is it about this place? But it's awakening something in me. The beautiful does that. See, here's part of it, Matt, and I get it. We were so concerned about putting a renewed stress on the assembly, on the people. Okay, great. It's true. The people, the mystical body, and that's why we incense the people at Mass, and the people are a bearer of Christ's presence, and the Mass is a call and response between head and members, and all that beautiful stuff. Pray that my sacrifice and yours might be acceptable. So, yes, indeed, all that's true. But it's not just that. And so what we tend to do is say, because I want to say this, I'm going to say not that.
Right.
Say, that's a mistake. Catholicism is a both-and religion, as I've said ad nauseum, but it's true. We're both-and religion. So yes to the community and yes to the church building. Yes to the rational, yes to the beautiful. Yes to the communitarian, yes to the aesthetic. Yes.
Yes.
The end of Ulysses, James Joyce. Yes. That's his Catholicism reasserting itself,
right.
I think.
Yes. A third suggestion is to continue to increase our presence online and social media. So one of the common observations about effective evangelization is you have to go to where the people are, and the people, not just young people, as you know, are online all day, every day.
Yeah.
And so we have to reach them there. So how can we continue to do that effectively?
Well, I'm happy. I mean, we were pioneers in it, I think. When you go back to the beginning of Word on Fire, there wasn't a lot of Catholic or religious presence online. YouTube had just started. When I did my first YouTube video, it was, I think, a year old, YouTube. I'm proud of that we got in there, and I think a lot of people have imitated us. And there are great things out there, from the kind of Catholic Answers approach of basic apologetics and so on, to all kinds of different ways of announcing the faith. Like everything else, it's got pitfalls, and it can be misused, and it can be superficial and all that. Nevertheless, it can and should be used by the church. And I'm happy to see all these, many flowers blooming online, so that people will stumble upon it when they're looking. I'm glad to see that. Now, I'm very aware of all the dark side of the internet. I get it. And I mourn that in many ways, when these young people are totally drawn into the world of the internet. But I do think we have to put up with that, and we have to get into that world. So let the flowers keep blooming.
We were talking about this before we started recording, but many young people may not know that prior to the internet, prior to Word on Fire and your work, really, there were only a few gatekeepers to Catholicism, and they were print journals or print magazines, and now that's completely changed.
It's very interesting, that point. So go back to when I was a young guy, just ordained, and then I got my doctorate. And if you wanted to write for academic journals, and I did some of that, and that's good. There were always academic journals around that were read by, a few hundred people. But if you wanted to reach a broader audience, there were basically three gatekeepers. It was American Magazine, Commonweal, and the National Catholic Reporter. They would be left, hard left, and crazy left were the three options you had. But they were the gatekeepers if you wanted to get into that world. So that's why much of that discourse was very conditioned by the left.
Right.
I think a great thing about the social media is it allowed other voices to be heard. If you had a more conservative perspective, you couldn't get heard back in those days. Now you can because of this, So I think that's been a great grace, actually, that it allows to break the stranglehold that the Catholic left had on more popular modes of communication within the church. And, may I just say a bit provocatively, what's really succeeding when you look at that world are the voices that are, I would say, more classically Catholic voices, are the ones that are really succeeding online.
Yeah, those old voices are online, and
they're there.
Don't have a significant following.
Not as great. Yeah, and I think I'm just trying to be objective in saying that. So I think that's been a great grace.
Yeah, just reporting the facts. So two more suggestions. One is to keep evangelizing the culture. Now, Bishop, I think the way to frame this advice is that the culture's shifting, and now there's a greater openness to Catholicism and to the gospel. So how do we shift with it in evangelizing the culture?
Well, I don't know if we shift. We engage it, and we acknowledge it, and we rejoice in it, and say, okay, there's more. I know you're interested, so here's more. And I think you reach out to people's natural questions. You respond to the questions that naturally arise about religion, about the faith, about meaning, about purpose, about where things come from, where they're going, and you just let those questions surface. And then you engage them with the wealth of the great tradition. I think we should exult in this moment, as you said earlier, kind of catch the momentum of it, catch the wave of it, and keep challenging people, intellectually, aesthetically, morally. Keep challenging people, the good, the true, and the beautiful, and get something which is even truer, that's even better, it's even more beautiful. Don't settle at the level of the moral life for mediocrity. Don't settle for aesthetic mediocrity. Don't settle for semi-answers. Look for the really profound answers. Remember Josef Pieper? I was just over in Europe a few weeks ago for the Pieper Prize, and a teacher said to him when he was a young man, he was reading Hegel, and he said, Hegel's fine, but he said, he's like confectionery sugar. I want to give you a good brown bread. And he gave him Thomas Aquinas.
Yeah. That's good.
And I've always loved that image. And Hegel, one of the great minds of the West, but I get his meaning, that there was something, it's attractive and it's sort of tasty and interesting, but it's not the sustenance that you get from like an Aquinas. So let's keep giving people good, solid brown bread and beautiful things and keep calling them to moral heroism.
And a fifth and final suggestion is to embrace St. Pope John Paul II's great words of encouragement, be not afraid.
Yeah.
So, Bishop, what does evangelical courage look like now?
Well, it's announcing, Jesus Christ risen from the dead, when that is still, in the minds of many, a very unpopular point of view, when it's puzzling to many, when many think religion's been written off as nonsense, we jump right in the fray.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think the beauty of the success of many of our endeavors, and I mean this broadly, many Catholics are involved online, is they weren't afraid. They weren't afraid to jump into the arena, right? And look, I know this from a lot of experience. The brickbats come. I mean, when you're in this arena, this show will get people throwing brickbats at it. Okay, they all do. I get it, but all right. The joie de combat, as the French say, the joy of the battle. I think you have to have the courage to get in the mix. But see, I do think, man, I really do, that it's paid off. I think of the earliest days when I first started doing this, and I think I've told you before, I was appalled at first. Why are these people attacking me? And I'm just saying I thought nice religious things here, and I'm getting attacked.
Yeah.
All right. I could have run away at that point and said, all right, I give up. I don't. Who needs this? Let me go back to writing learned articles that'll be read by 200 people. Or no, stay in the arena. Stay in the arena and fight back.
Well, it's now time for our listener question.
Okay.
Today we have Liam from the United Kingdom asking a new question. We've never seen a question like this about whether we can use a Barthian from the Protestant theologian Karl Barth. Barthian emphasis to preach to young people.
Okay.
Hi, Bishop. This is Liam from the UK, and I work teaching children the faith. And in one of your previous lectures, you talked about preaching with a Barthian sort of emphasis. I'm just curious, is that something you would extend into how you would teach the faith to young people? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. For those who don't know, I mean, Karl Barth was, along with Paul Tillich, probably the greatest Protestant theologian of the 20th century. And Barth stood athwart what he took to be the liberal tradition within Protestantism. Barth was in favor of bringing people into the dense jungle of the biblical world. He didn't like programs of translation. So let's translate the Bible into our experience or into language of our time. He felt, let the Bible be the Bible. Draw people into its strangeness and into its surprise and into its weird characters and so on. To that degree, I would say yes. I think kids, just as they respond to Star Wars, as I've said many times, talk about being drawn into a particular strange world with weird characters.
Right.
They love it. They love Star Wars. Well, the Bible, it's more wonderful than Star Wars. And it too is a strange, distinctive world. Don't be too quick to translate it into language that, a kid will understand. Let the Bible be the Bible. Yes, I think that's really a good instinct.
Well, thank you so much, Liam, for your question. If you would like to ask Bishop Barron a question for a future Word on Fire show, please visit askbishopbarron.com. That's askbishopbarron.com. We always love to hear from you. Well, thank you again, Bishop, for this conversation. Many gems.
Always a joy. Thanks, man.
Thank you. That does it for us today. Thanks for joining us on the Word on Fire show. If you're interested in learning more about how Word on Fire can help you grow closer to Christ and become a better evangelist with and for others and work for the common good, consider joining the Word on Fire Institute. Check us out at institute.wordonfire.org. That's institute.wordonfire.org. We'll see you next time.